Welcome to Poker Vlog number 41. Audio is pretty horrible down here, and one of the reasons is I'm no longer in the VIP parking. Bad news, that's not 100%, but it just looks like they're taking away the VIP card from all the poker players. They never wanted it, but they're just doing it because the managers there were pushing for it. And yeah, it's not 100%, but that'll definitely be a bummer because the buffet, the comps every day, were helping a lot. But anyways, let's move on. I want to say a few things, just so there's no confusion, because the video I posted today is the best one that's been so far. It's over 4,000 views, and I posted it this morning. That's not insane, but it's great for me. And there's a few comments that I wanted to talk about right now. And one of them is that someone said how I'm losing 5 months, and if I'm losing 5 out of 6 months, I'm doing something wrong. And that's because I said I've only had one good month, and that doesn't mean other than 5 I'm losing. I only lost 1. I was only down 1 month. Saying that's not a good month, it just says the hourly is a lot lower than what I expect. So I'm still making money most of the months. It's a lot less, or not a lot less, but a decent amount less than what I'm expecting. That's a bad month. So anyways, just to clarify that, I've only had one losing month this year. Actually, since I started, it's been one losing month in I think it's been 2 years now. And second thing, one guy made it a statement that I'm playing 1-3, but he'd prefer to work at like Wendy's or some shit like that. And since these videos are about making a living playing 1-3, you gotta love this game, man. If you don't love this game, I do not recommend trying to do this for a living, because some days are brutal, you know, and it's really hard to deal with. I love this game, and some days are hard for me, and I love playing. So if you don't like playing this game and you're just playing for the money, like, it's gonna be so much harder. I couldn't imagine like coming during a bad run when I'm losing money for a month and coming and not liking to play. Just sounds like a bad idea. Easier ways to make money that are just way easier mentally and emotionally. So I definitely don't recommend it if that's your mindset. I love playing. Dude, I'd play for free. I'd play poker for free. So if you would play poker for free, I think you have a better chance to make a living off of it. So with that said, let's head into play. Again, feels like repetitive. This month's not doing amazing, but still better than working at Wendy's since I'm above 20 an hour. And that's a bad month. So I'm feeling pretty promising about how much my hourly could be playing 1-3. So yeah, with all that said, let's head in. Let's think positive. Hopefully could run good today and have a winning session for the vlog. Let's do it. All right, we head into the very familiar poker room at Jamul, buying for $500 as usual. Max on the table is 300, extra 2 in case we need to add on quickly. Let's jump right into the first hands that begin with King 3 off, Queen 4 off, Jack 4 off, and now we're in a small blind with Ace 5 suited under the limb, so I make it $20 and he folds. And we get the best hand in poker already. Pocket aces in the button under the limbs. So I make it $15. We get a small blind under the call. Flop, Queen 7 King. So not the best for pocket aces, but still pretty good. And with checks to us, we're definitely a bit for value. So I make it $20 and only under the calls. Turn's definitely not one of the cards I was hoping for. It's a jack. So under the limb, his limb calling range for sure is a lot of King Jack, King Queen, Queen Jack. So was definitely planning on barreling most turns, but the Jack, I don't know if I could get 3 streets of value for much worse. I mean, he limped and called under the gun, and he did seem like a decently tight player. So if I bet, I mean, I'm mostly targeting King 10 and flush draws. We do have the Ace of Hearts though, so I'd be more inclined to betting if I didn't have the Ace of Hearts. So altogether, I decided to power control and check. River is a deuce, and she snap bets $50, so really not loving this. I don't see her bluff often, but after checking back the turn, even though there is a good amount of combos of 2 pairs and hands that are beating us, the flush draw did miss, so I do end up calling, and she flips over Jack 10 of Hearts. So that was definitely a hell of a flop for him. Thankfully, he didn't hit any of his outs, since getting our aces cracked at the beginning of the session is definitely not fun. This time the pot will be coming our way. So let's move on to 9 deuce suited. Now we get another one that is very pretty. Queen Jack suited in the hijack. Under the 2 makes it $15. And I think definitely 3 betting here is fine. But he is in an early position and he made it 15. That's on a bigger side. So I do decide just to call, and so does a small blind. Flop Ace King 8. So we do have a gut shot to the nuts if it's not a club, but there is a flush draw. And yeah, when he bets $20, it's almost half pot. I just let it go. Next hand, Queen 8 off, and now we're going to play another one, Ace 7 suited and under the 2. I make it $12. You get a cut off and small blind default. Flop 5, deuce 8. That pretty good. We connect decently with this board. Backdoor flush draw, overcard, backdoor straight draw. And the top pair is an 8. That is definitely very dynamic. A lot of turn cards that could be overcards to this board. And if we bet here and one of those come out, that could be pretty scary. I think we get a lot of hands that fold. Compared to if this was like a king high flop, most likely if someone has top pair, they're going to have it by the river. And it's hard to get people to fold top pair, especially in 1-3. So I definitely like this board more to decide to try to barrel on. So I make it $20 and no need since they end up just folding. Definitely a nice outcome. Let's move on to 9-3 suited, jack 9 off, ace 5 off. Once again, ace 5 off, but this time in the button. So when it folds to us, I think it's good enough to raise. So I make it $12 and just a big blind calls. Flop deuce 10 queens. So we don't hit, but we do got backdoors going on for us and overcards. So I think it's a big blind that could be pretty wide. I make it $12 and he calls. Turn is a 3. That does give us a gut shot. He checks, and if he did have a queen or a 10 when the flush comes in, maybe we can start getting those to fold. So let's keep it going. I'm gonna get $30. Now look at his hands. He checks his cards, and this is definitely a big live tell. If he had a flush, he would know, because if he's calling the flop with a flush draw and he turns it, he doesn't have to check. This looks like he's checking if he has a spade in his hand. And this is usually pretty accurate unless maybe they're doing it to make an inverse tell, trying to make me feel like he doesn't have a flush. I do not think this is the case ever against this player. So I feel pretty comfortable and certain that he does not have a flush. Let's go to river. That is a jack. He checks, and here we are with ace high in a spot that this player is pretty tight, and I'm pretty sure he does not have a flush. And in 1-3, people do not triple barrel bluff. If I bet again, it's just going to look so damn strong. It's going to just look like I have a flush myself, since players don't go thin for value that often. And the jack does bring in ace king and other straights. That could be scary as well. Hopefully he doesn't have that. So maybe I could even get some 2 pairs. I definitely think I'll get all 1 paired hand to fold, maybe some 2 pairs. So let's go for it. Triple barrel bluff. I make it $70 and he goes into the tank. He starts saying how this just looks like a flush, or even ace king gets there as the straight. And then he says he has a straight that I was definitely not expecting. My guess is maybe king 9 with a king of spades. He flopped a gut shot and turned the second nut flush draw. But yeah, now I was hating life. I was not trying to get a hand so strong as a straight to fold. I was expecting max 2 pairs. So now I was just in my mind, please fold, even though I did not expect that to happen. But after a good amount of time, finally he does fold. So our triple barrel bluff gets through and we get a straight to fold. That is pretty insane. And that is how strong triple barrels look in these games. And this player was pretty tight. I wouldn't have done this against a sticky player, since some players, especially in 1-3, just won't fold top pair. So very player dependent situation, and with that live tell, because maybe he could have a flush himself. So most likely, I don't know if I would have done this if I didn't see him check his cards. And we get our first triple barrel bluff through. Session starting very good. Let's try to keep it going. Get ready for a bunch of playable hands. 10-7 suited in the cutoff. I make it $12. Everybody folds. Now we got pocket 10s in the hijack. I make it $12 and just a small blind calls. Flop king, king 4. So pretty good, honestly, for pocket 10s. Just an overcard and it's paired, so less likely they have a king. So when he checks, I bet $10 and they fold. Very next hand, ace 3 suited in the low jack. I make it $12 with the button to call. Flop 6, 9, 7. So yeah, definitely better board for the calling player. He could have all the 2 pairs, he'd have all the straights, and I got a backdoor flush draw going on for me, but altogether I decided to check. Only bets $15. I just let it go. Next hand, queen jack suited. I make it $12 and everybody folds. Very next hand, we got pocket 3s, our favorite number. If you saw my previous vlog, this is the one that got us going strong, flopping a set. Let's see if we could do it again. I make it $12 and just to hide that calls. Flop 5-3 ace. We flop bottom set on an ace high board. That is amazing, since people love to call with aces. So I decided to play tricky and check, since if he has an ace, I think he's going to be betting, and we go for a check raise. But sadly he checks back, turns a 10 of diamonds. That is definitely a bummer, since now the flush comes in, but I can't check again. Let's try to get some value. I make it $15 and Always nice to flop a set, but sadly no value to get since he just folds. Let's move on. 3 deuce off. In the big blind, we see a free flop and get the showdown since it just checks around and we're no good. Of course, we thought 3 high, 8-7 off. Now we are in the button with king 10 off. I make it $12 and just a big blind calls. Flop promising ace queen 5, so we don't hit, but a gut shot and a backdoor flush shot. Definitely a board better for us. When he checks, I bet $10 and he folds. 8-7 off, deuce 3 off, jack 8 suited, 6-3 off. Now in a big limit, pocket 5s. Under that makes it $12. Low jack calls. Happy calling here, so I call. Flop 6-4-7 and ends up checking around. Turns a jack, checks around. Rivers a jack, checks around. I show, and we are good. Moving on to a little bit of garbage. Jack 5 off, 8-4 off, 8-9 off, jack 9 off, king 8 off, 9-7 off, jack 4 off, 4-6 suited, ace 4 off, ace 5 off, 5-4 off, and now we look down at a pretty one. Pocket 8s and a cutoff. Under the limp, so I make it $15. Just a big blind calls. Flop 6-5-10. So, not the worst. It's one overcard to a pocket pair. And against the big blind, we need protection. And there's worse hands we get the value from. I make it $15. And he rips it all in for 68. That's definitely not what I was hoping for. It just looks like most likely it's a 10. I mean, maybe he just hit a 6 and is just going for it. He's thinking if I call, might as well rip it all in there. But in the moment, it just felt like most likely it was a 10, so I do decide to let it go. Very next hand, we get a prettier one. Pocket jacks and a hijack. I make it $12 and just the big blind calls. Flop ace 7 deuce. So once again, just one overcard, not the worst. But when he checks, with the ace, I feel like I'm just getting a lot of folds with any worse hand. Maybe I get one street value from a 7, but I could check here, puncture a little bit, and try to get value from that on the turn. So that is what I do. I check. Turn is a 10. He checks, and now I don't think he has an ace, and maybe turn a 10 or has a 7. That may call us at least once. I make $12, and he calls. River, another 10. So I was planning on going for value along the river, but when another 10 comes, just a lot of hands that play this way. It looks like a 10 or a 7, and I don't think a 7 is going to call again. So I decide to just check. He doesn't want to show, so I show, and they are good. He mucks. Moving on to 9-5 off. Now we got ace 7 suited in under than 2. I make it $12, just low jack calls. Flop queen, king 3. Ends up checking around, turns a king, checks around, rivers a jack, checks around, and we are good with our ace high. Very next hand, king, queen off and under the gun. I make it $12 and get a hijack and button to call. Flop 9-5-10. Honestly, I do like betting here. I got 2 overcards and a gut shot to the nuts, but in the moment, I do decide to check. Checks to the button, bets $20. And yeah, if I'm going to check call, might as well bet myself. But this is what I do in the moment. And with a gut shot and 2 overcards, I'm not going anywhere yet. I call, hijack folds. Turn is beautiful. It's a jack. We turn the gut shot. We've got the nuts. But sadly, when I check, he checks back. River is at 8. That's definitely interesting. Now, any queen is a straight, but I don't know how many queens he has. I mean, sure, queen 10 could be playing this way. Queen 9, that just thought they were good on the flop and decided to pot control even though they haven't opened it to straight draw. So now let's just target if he has a queen. I make it $115. But sadly, it seems like he doesn't have a queen since he does fold. Let's move on. King 7 off. We see a free flop in the big blind, but miss. So we fold. Jack 7 off. Now in a button with once again pocket jacks under the limps. I didn't notice that, so I make it $12. If I would have noticed, I would have made it $15. Folds to him. He says, let's gamble. Jams for $61. So of course, I call. He shows pocket deuces, so I show as well. Definitely in good shape. Flop, looking good. 10-9 ace, so we just need to fade 2 deuces, and we don't even have to worry about him anymore since turn is a jack. We turn a set. And to make things even more fun, river's another jack, sorry, runner quads, just an overkill against the pocket deuces, and we'll scoop, and that's always really cool to get quads for the vlog. Moving on, jack 8 off. Now we got another pocket pair, a little worse, pocket 9s and a hijack. I make it $12 and just a cutoff calls. Flop 8-8-5, so definitely above average, no overcard to a pocket pair. And maybe if I had a bigger pocket pair like aces and kings, that doesn't need much protection, I consider checking here. But if it checks around, there's just a lot of overcards to our pocket pair that can show up. And I don't want to give him a free card on the turn to hit one of those overcards, so I make it $12 and he just folds. Moving on to king 8 off, 6-7 off, 7-3 off, king 3 off, ace 8 off, and it's a day of the pocket pairs. Pocket 8 in the low jack. I make it $12 and get the hijack and button to call. Button, he is my new nemesis. If you saw my previous vlog, he's the one that had aces against my kings. He watches my content, and yeah, I decided that he is now my nemesis. So let's get to battle against him. Flop, 4 Jack 3, so 1 overcard, 3 ways. I checks to the button. He bets $10 onto us and a pretty small size, and against him, he has a pretty unorthodox way of playing, so I think he could be doing this with playing hands that is an 8-jack, so I do call and hijack fold. So heads up to a turn that is another jack, that's definitely a great card, less likely he has one. So when I check and he bets $15 again, getting a great price, I'm not going anywhere, I call. River is a 4. That was one of the last cards I wanted to see, since when he bet small again, just felt like he was going for showdown. He was betting for value with a card maybe he thought was good and be able to check back the river. That was very likely a 4. So when I check and he rips it all in for $50, just looks like that could still be a jack or a 4. So this time I do decide to let it go, and he does show us the 4. So first one going to on nemesis. Moving on to queen 10 off, jack 9 off, and once again we got pocket aces and in the button. What a dream. One limper, cut off a pretty tight player, super tight, one of the tightest players in this room, makes it $25. So this is the dream spot. Aces against a tight player that makes it a massive size. This just looks like a nutted hand. So let's 3-bet. I make it $75. Folds back to her, and she does call. Flop, queen 10 8. So, I mean, I was just hoping for lower cards. Still decent, but I just felt like most likely she had kings, queens, or jacks. Could be ace king, but we're blocking that. But of course, when she checks, I'm going to bet. I make it $40, and she calls. Turn is another 10. That's decent. I really didn't think she had too many 10s that bet that big pre-flop. So when she checks, I definitely think I should be betting here, get value from the kings. In a moment, I was just getting a little paranoid about the pocket queens, is I felt she most likely has kings or queens making that size. Again, this player is super tight, and that size, it's just literally her range is ace, king, kings, queens. I don't even know if she's making it that size with jacks. I mean, I don't even know if she's making that size with ace, king. Honestly, I've seen her limp before, limp call with ace, king. So this hand, I was really thinking it's kings or queens. So seeing that queen there, again, I still should be betting. But in a moment, I do decide to check back. And yeah, probably should be betting, but that is what I do. River is a 6. Now she bets $100. And yeah, it is less than half pot, but this is 1-3. $100 is a very big size. So even though it is pretty small compared to the pot, it is a very strong looking bet. It's not the same thing. If the pot was $20 and they bet 30, that looks weaker than betting 100 in here, because again, $100 is a very big size for these games. So yeah, in a moment, I could see the credit in raising, but in a moment, I do just call, and she flips over ace king off. So I guess we made max out of it, even though I'm not a huge fan how I played this. I feel I definitely played it a little too scared, but I mean, I don't put it against myself, honestly, because he's so tight. But there's more combos of kings than queens, because there is a queen on the board. So I think we just had to go for it. But hey, if you want to be results oriented, I think she was folding the ace queen off. So playing a little scared got us an extra $100. Let's move on to 10 deuce suited, jack 6 off, king 10 off. Now we got a playable 1, 9-8 suited and under the gun. I make it $12. You get under than 1, under than 2, and big blind to call. Flop 4, 10, 9. So second pair, not the worst, but not strong enough to bet out of position. So I checks around. Turn is a 7. That brings in the flush, so maybe if there's a breakout bet, but when the flush comes in, I decide to checks around. River is nice. It's a 9, so we got trips. So when it's on to us, let's go for value. I make it $15, and I get under than 2 and big blind to call. And we show, and our trips are good. So this session is going amazing. What a sun run. Let's keep it going. King 3 off. We see a free flop and miss, so when someone bets, we fold. Small blind, pocket 6s, 2 limpers, and yeah, maybe pocket 7s, pocket 8s. I'd definitely be raising. I mean, this one was just borderline. In the moment, I do decide to see a free flop. not a free flop, a cheap flop, and it cost me $2. I call, big blind checks, ace high board. So when I check and someone bets, I just let it go. Very next hand, let's play 7-6 suited, 3 limpers. I make it $25 and just get the low jack to call. Flop 4 king 5. So pretty decent. Open in a straight draw, and the king is definitely good for us. So when he checks, I bet $20 and he calls. Turn is an 8. So indeed, we turn the nuts. But I think this may be the first time this ever happens to me. I have a pretty massive brain fart. For some reason, I just think I have 7-8. So in my mind, when that turn card comes, I think I have second pair. And with that in mind, he checks and I think, okay, I got showdown value. I check back. Then river comes the ace. That's pretty bad, since now if he has a king, he may fold. He checks. And in the moment I was having the realization, I was like, wait, I had an open-ended on the flop. How do I have a pair on the 8? That means I have the nuts. So I check my cards and I have the realization of what a mistake I made and what a bad river to show up. Because now if he has a king, this just looks like I could have an ace, but what are you going to do? Let's try to go for value. I make it $50, and we see the great news since at least he does call on the river. I show, and we, of course, are good. So definitely a pretty massive brain fart. We may have lost some value. I don't know if he had a strong enough hand to call a triple barrel, but we'll never know, and we'll scoop it. Let's try not to do that again. And moving off, 7-4 off, Jack 6 off, Jack 7 suited, Queen 4 off. What a sun run. Wow, we've been playing for under 2 hours. And I think I'm up 600, 500 to 600. Anyways, I'll correct it here. But yeah, wow, it's been a while. I got that bluff through 2, triple barrel bluff with air. I don't do it often, so it's cool I did it for the video. And crazy that I said he folded a straight, and then I had that brain fart when I turned the nuts a few hands ago. And in my mind, I thought I turned 2 pairs, so I checked. Anyways, I took a break just to take a little walk. It's been so action, it gets a little tiring. And I'm way behind on the notes. And I didn't mention I'm doing the TikTok for Ignition, not the whole thing. I just post our videos. I'm the one that manages it. Just posting. They tell me what to do, and I just post it. I write the captions, but I got to do it today, and I literally have had no time because there's been so many hands. I thought, all right, I'll just do in between, but yeah, there's no chance. Usually on a regular session, I have little time in between, but I'm way behind on the notes, so I decided just to take a minute now and do it really quick before it becomes midnight. And yeah, so we're gonna do that, take a mini break, and head back in. When we come back and buy the blinds, we see a beautiful welcome. Parky aces in the cutoff. 3rd time we get them. Definitely amazing. I make it $12. I get the button as small blind to call. Flop 5, 6, 8. So a little scary against the button as small blind. That could be pretty wide. You could have all the 2 pairs, you could have all the straights, all the sets, and I don't have too many of those. Maybe I could have 5, 6, 9, 7. I could have a few of them, but I definitely think a board for them. So when a small blind leads for $15, if it was more of a dry board that just looks like a top pair hand, I'd be raising a lot. But here, I'm just a little worried. I definitely think I could be behind, so I decide to play it safe and call. Button does fold. Turn, not what I was hoping for. It's a 7. So now any 4 or any 9 is a straight. But when he bets $20, that is a 3rd pot. I forgot to mention this is once again my nemesis. So I think maybe he could still be doing this with top pair that he's just trying to get to showdown like he did previously with the 4s, since the size is really small. So once again, I call. River is very interesting. It's an ace. So we river top set, and he bets $30 now. And yeah, this is such a weird spot. If I didn't have river and ace, I'd consider folding. But now I just thought, again, when he makes it really small, a 3rd pot, maybe he's doing this with 2 pair or an 8. Again, this player has a very different way of playing. And how many 9s? I mean, yeah, he could have 8, 9, maybe 6, 9, 5, 9. But against a player that I think he could be doing a lot of different interesting weird lines, I decide not to let go of my top set. I call, and we are no good against 4 deuce off. So he had a double gutter on the flop and hit it on the turn. So our top set of aces is no good. 2-0 for our nemesis. Let's move on to the very next hand that not as pretty of a pocket pair, pocket deuces, but still good enough to raise in a hijack. So I make it $12 in the cutoff and small blind to call. Flop is definitely beautiful though. 3-4 deuce. We flop bottom set. Let's go. Checks to us. Let's try to get value. I make it $15. The only small blind call set is once again our nemesis. Turn is a jack, and now things get interesting again with him since he leads for $30. I start thinking now, just considering raising, since as you've seen before, he can lead with a very wide variety of hands. But while I'm thinking, he flashes me a 6. Okay, for sure, 6-5 is beating us. That is the nuts. Of course, I'm not folding, but that changed my mind about raising, because if I raise now, am I going to get called by anything that is not 6-5? If he has 6-4, if he has 6-3, like 6-7, pocket sixes, maybe he'll call, but altogether, it felt like he was trying to bluff me, trying to look scary with the 6, or if not, he actually had it. And if he was bluffing on a raise, I just think he's going to fold. And of course, if he has 6-5, we're beat. So I decide with that in mind to just call. Where is a 7? Now I bet's $50. And yeah, I just think this is a spot that he has 6-5, or he doesn't have anything that could call a raise, since it is a 1-pair hand that yeah, is very likely not called. So I just felt like it's not worth risking raising here, because I probably will only get called by 6-5. So I do call, and he doesn't want to show me his hand, so I show my pocket deuces for flop bottom set, and this time we are good. So we finally win one hand against our nemesis. Let's go. Let's move on to jack 3 off, and once again pocket deuces under the gun. I make it $12, but we do not get a chance to flop a set since our nemesis makes it $40, and he tends to call a lot pre-flop. So him 3-betting looks super strong, and I'd basically be calling to set mine, and that would be $28. And if you want to set mine, usually you got to make 15x, and he's not that deep. So I just let it go, and he does show us pocket queens. So he will take that one down. Very next hand, let's play ace-jack suited in the big blind under the 2. He limps, so I make it $15, and he calls once again on nemesis. So we're just battling against him. Flop 7-9 queen. So not too much, but overcard, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, good enough to bet. So I make it $15, and he folds. Queen 5 off, 10-3 off. Now another pocket pair, pocket 9s in the cutoff on limper. I make it $15, get the button to call. Now the small blind 3-bets to 60. And yeah, I mean, in other games, 2-5 or deeper, I'll definitely be calling here. But again, I just think you can overfold here, because if you think about the range of these players, it's literally aces, kings, queens. I mean, maybe ace-king. Plenty of players is flat with ace-king. So let's just even add ace-king. If they have ace-king, aces, kings, queens, pocket 9s is a strong hand. But against that range, it is not. It's basically almost set mining once again, and I'm not set mining for that price. So once again, I make it pretty tight fold, and once again, they have pocket queens. So yeah, nice to get away from that one pre-flop. Moving on to 4-7 off, 6-3 suited, 6-5 off, and now we are in a big blind. Once again, we got pocket aces, 4th time, under the 2 on nemesis limb, so I make it $20. Sadly though, this time we get no action since he folds, so out of 4, we win 2, we lose 1, and we chop 1. Now we're in a smaller with jack 9 off, folds to us, and we chop it up. Button, queen jack off under the limb, so I make it $15 to get a big line under the call. Flop 10-4-8, so player cards in a gut shot, pretty good. Big blind on nemesis leads once again for $15, so definitely seems like he likes to do that move. Under the gun jams, but just 17, so with a gut shot 2 overcards, that price, I'm not going anywhere. I call, and so does the big blind. Turns no help, it's a 6, so when he checks, no purpose in betting here since there's one player all in. So it's not like we could try to bluff here since we'll have to go to showdown with the other player anyways. So I check back. River is a 3. So sadly, we do not hit anything. So when big blind rips you all in for $70, I just fold. And if you're curious, our nemesis had deuce 4 of hearts, so he led the flop with bottom pair and runnered a flush that will be good, and he takes this one down. Let's move on to jack 4 off, 8-4 off that we chop up in the blinds, queen jack off, not good in the small blind, so we just fold, king 5 off, 10 deuce suited, jack 8 off, 7-3 off, jack deuce off. Now we are in the button once again with the upgrade, queen jack, but this time suited. Under the gun, a very tight older player makes it $15, folds to us. And yeah, I'm never 3-betting him when he raises unless I have the nuts. So I just call flop 3, 8, 7. So, I mean, 2 overcards, but when he bets $15, I mean, maybe I should be continuing at least once, but again, he is so tight. I decided just to let it go. Moving on, queen 8 off, queen 4 suited, ace 5 off. We're in the blinds and we chop it up. 10-6 suited, king 3 suited, 6 deuce suited. Now we're under the gun with a premium ace king off. I make it $12. You get the button a small blind call. Flop 5 queen 3. So 2 overcards. We got the king of spades, backdoor straight draw. Let's bet. I make it $15. Only the small blind calls. Turn is a 10. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good card to be barreling on. We've got a gut shot, 2 overcards, and this player is pretty tight. So apart from a queen, I think we're going to get everything to fold now. So I'm going to get $35. That I definitely think is a little too small. I think I'd make at least 45, but that is what I do in the moment. And sadly, does not work since once again he calls. River is no help. It's a 9 that brings him some straights, and he checks. And as I said, this player is pretty tight. The flush draw misses. And I don't know if I'm going to get a queen to fold. So this time I do decide just to give up. I check. And sadly, we did not triple barrel since he had 5-4 of spades. So he flops second pair and a flush draw that for sure I would have got to fold the river, but we did not go for it. So he will take this one down with his pair of 5s. Moving on to 9-7 off in the blinds. We chop it up. King 7 off. Now in the button with 8-9 suited. Cutoff makes it $12. Only I call. Flop. Ace Jack 4. So definitely not our board. So when he bets $10, I just let it go. 9-4 off. Ace 4 off. And now guess what? We have pocket aces. 5th time in this session, but when I make it $12, once again everybody folds. So once again we get no action. That is definitely bittersweet with our pocket aces. Let's move on to the big one with ace 6 off, under the gun, under one limb. So I check flop 4 king deuce, checks around, turn is a 10, and with a nut flush draw I make it $3 and everybody folds. So yeah, massive pot that I make $1 profit after tipping the dealer. Moving on to 10-7 off. Now we're in a button with a decent one. Ace jack off. Under the gun on nemesis makes it $6. Folds to us, and that is way too small. I make it 20, and he calls. Flop king deuce, and yeah, we got plenty of kings in our range. So when he checks, I bet $15, and he folds. So we'll take it down. 8-4 off, and once again ace jack off and hijack under the 2 and low jack limp. So I make it $20, and only under the 2 calls. Flop 10 jack 8, so pretty good top pair top kicker. So when he checks, I bet $20 and he calls. Turn is a 3. Let's keep on going for value. When he checks, I bet 40, and once again he calls. River is a 4. He checks, and I thought about going for value on the river, just targeting king jack and queen jack, but at the same time there is still a decent amount of hands that we're losing against. There's a straight, there's 2 pairs that may just call since there is a straight on the board. So altogether I do decide to not triple barrel for value. I check back and we are good against king 8 suited. So yeah, pretty sticky calling the turn with the bottom pair, and happy for it. And now we know, because this is the first time we're playing against this player, that he can be very sticky. So we can definitely go thinner for value on the river, like in this case. Let's move on to 9-4 suited. Let's go back to the premiums, ace king off and under the gun, but no action since when I make it $12, everybody folds. And let's get through some garbage. 6-3 off, 10-9 off, 10 deuce off, 8-4 off, jack 3 off, 10-6 off, 5-4 off. In the big blind we see a free flop and miss, so fold. Ace 9 off, king 4 off, 10-8 off. Ace deuce suited we raise, but someone else does, so we just let it go. King 3 off, Jack 7 suited. Now in a big blind with a pretty one, pocket jacks. There's 3 limpers, so let's raise it up big. I make it $35, and only the button calls. That is the same player that called with King 8 with the bottom pair. So let's go to flop against him. Flop 7-9-8. That, yeah, definitely scary board. Limper hits this a lot. At least we are blocking the nuts. And against this player, I think he's playing very straight up. Just be calling with worse and raise with better. So let's bet. We need protection as well. I make it $30, and he does call. Turn is a queen. That is definitely interesting. Brings in the flush, but we do have the jack of spades. And yeah, I do not know if I get called by worse. This guy is pretty sticky, but I just had to pocket a little bit with my pocket jacks. I check, he checks back. River is a deuce. And against this player, let's try to go for value with a block bet. I make it $35, but no more tickets since he does. Just let it go. Move on to 9-5 off, 8-5 off, 10-9 off, ace 10 off, and early position raises. I just fold. 10-8 off, jack 5 off, ace deuce off, king deuce off. In a big blind we chop it up. Ace deuce off, queen 5 off, 6-9 suited, king queen off. When under the gun a very tight player raises, I just let it go. 10-9 off, jack 4 off, ace 8 off, jack 8 off. And now we're in the button with ace deuce suited. Under the gun on nemesis makes it $6. Under the 2 low jack calls, and in position with a suited ace, getting a pretty great prices to see a flop. I do call. So there's a small blind and big blind flop. Very promising. 5 king 4. So we flopped a nut flush and a gut shot. Under the gun jams for $24 under the 2 calls. And yeah, again, a spot that when a player all in, we can't really bluff anyways. And other than 2 calling does look decently strong. So I just call. Turn is a 9, check, check. River sadly is another 9. We do not hit any of our outs. It goes check, check. And somehow under the gun is good with ace 4 suited. So we flop bottom pair, went all in, got 2 callers, and is somehow good because under the 2 had a straight draw. So he faded a lot of bad cards, and his bottom pair will be good. He takes it down. Very next hand, we got queen 10 suited in the cutoff under the 2 limps. I make it $15, and he calls. Flop decent, 10 deuce 7, top pair queen kicker. He leads for $10, and I see the merit in raising. I definitely raise more certainly with ace 10. But this player, he's pretty tight, so maybe he could be doing it with a better 10 than my own. So I do call. Turn is an ace. He checks, and I see the value in checking here or betting, but I thought maybe he could be doing with a flush draw or a straight draw, so I make it $25, and he just lets it go. Let's move on. 10-3 off, queen 10 off, king 4 off, 10-6 off, king 7 suited. Now in a small blind with a pretty one, ace king off. There's 4 limpers, so let's punish them. I make it $40, and they all fold. Next hand, queen 8 suited in the button, definitely raise it up, but someone else does it, so I just let it go. Next hand, we get a pretty one, ace 10 suited, under the limps. I made $15. We get the button and under the call. Flop 6-4 deuce. So I definitely see the mirror embedding here. Probably I would have preferred it with 2 overcards and a backdoor flush draw, but in the moment I do check. It checks around, turn is a 5. And yeah, now when any 3 is a straight, I don't think betting here makes too much sense. So I check around. River's 8, I check, checks around, and under the gun wins with pocket 3. So he actually did turn the straight, and for some reason didn't bet, and he will take it down. As you see, just pocket 3s is just a really good hand. And anyways, jack 4 off. Now we're in the low jack with pocket 8s. I make it $12. Hijack 3 bets to 25. That, yeah, these basically min click 3 bets look pretty damn strong, but I'm getting a price to set mine, so I do call. Flop 6-4-9. So sadly no 8. So when I check and it bets $35 after he just min 3 bets and bets big on his flop, I'm not calling my pocket 8, so I just let it go. Pocket deuces in under the gun. And yeah, this hand under the gun, I think actually mostly it's a fold. And I do like raising it most of the time because people don't 3-bet often. But this time I do decide just to fold. Now in a big blind with ace jack off. 4 limpers, small blind calls, so I make it $35. I was definitely on the smaller side, but that is what I do. I get under the gun, hijack, and button the call. So when the flop comes deuce, 4, king, so multi-way. Yeah, I'm not going to try to bluff, so I check. Under the gun goes all in for $108. So yeah, I just fold. 7-8 off, 9-4 off. Now to cut over pocket 6s. Low jack makes it $6. And hey, that's a good price. I call, button calls, small blind calls, big blind calls. Flop 7-7 ace when Big Blind leads for $12. I'm good. I just fold. King 7 off, Jack 5 off, Queen 4 off, Ace 6 off. Now on a big blind with Ace 10 off. Under again 1 just rips it all in for $30, folds back to me. And this is an interesting spot. I mean, I just think either way is fine. I mean, he is in early position, but he is a short stack, so I don't expect him to play the best short stacks. And I just think it'd be plenty of pocket pairs that we're flipping against, and it still could be aces with better kickers. I don't know if aces with worse kickers are doing this. Altogether, I decide this time just to let it go. After this hand, we get called for the promotion, so if we get the highest card, we get to spin the wheel, but we get the deuce of clubs. That is the worst possible card, so of course that is not good. Last hand of the session is very ugly, 8 deuce off, and that is it. What a great session. Definitely feels great to run good and have a decent profit for 1-3. This is amazing. $610 is definitely way more than the average, so that is always amazing. And with that, let's rack up, cash out, and talk about this pretty amazing session. All right, let's go. That was a good session. Feels amazing for various reasons. One of them is lately the vlogs have not been running well, so solid win, because up 610 in 1-3 in 4 hours is an amazing hourly. I did cut it an hour early, and that is because one, I don't know how long this vlog is going to be, but it feels like it's going to be a shit ton of work, and I don't want it to be like over an hour long. I'm pretty tired. I'm definitely behind on sleep, having the 3 daughters. And yeah, was just happy. I'm like, hey, let's just call it. There's plenty of content for a vlog. I don't want to lose my mind editing. And yeah, that profit feels amazing. I just was happy locking that win and calling it a night, catching up on sleep. And yeah, that is it. So that definitely helped out our hourly a good amount. Not sure where it's at now, but we'll find that out at the end of this month. We're going to film again next week, then the week after that, right before the month is over, and then we'll find out how our hourly is. And of course, that doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be, play 1-3, but I feel like I'd get a decent idea of what it possibly can be, just seeing this. And I've talked to a few people out here as well that only play 1-3, and they told me what their hourly is. So with me playing and with that information, I think we get kind of an idea of what it possibly could be. So we'll have to wait a little while for that, for the videos actually be out. And yeah, once again, thank you all for watching. As usual, if you could subscribe, like, and leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.